This weekend, the big news was that the North Koreans shot off a rocket. They claimed they were making an attempt to put a satellite in orbit, which they have a right to do under international law. Space is supposed to be open to all those individuals who want to use it. Of course, the West, including our government, or especially our government, reacted almost in a hysterical fashion. They called for an emergency UN meeting, and this meeting of the UN met, and they are trying to decide now what to do about the North Koreans. Here it is. The North Koreans, they have a rocket, not an intercontinental ballistic missile. We don't even know for sure if they have a bomb that they could launch. And we're now wondering, what are we going to do with this country? I mean, they can't even feed themselves. They don't have a Navy. What kind of an Air Force do they have? And yet it just seems like this is an excuse for the West, and in particular, our military-industrial complex, to have another excuse to have a massive buildup. It just seems so unnecessary. Ironically, it seems like the Chinese had the most measured response to say, why don't you just sit back a minute and think about this? And I think that's what we ought to do. The Koreans aren't going to attack us. If they even did have a bomb, even if they made an attempt to do it, I mean, they would be wiped off the face of the earth within minutes. It's just preposterous to think that the North Koreans are a threat. I think they're playing cat and mouse. I think they're laughing. I think they love to see us go nuts over this. But what they don't understand is they might not realize how much we might overreact. And this whole thing that some of our politicians are saying, well, we should have gone in there and bombed that site before it even took off. But the technology there is so primitive, and yet we're at this point of thinking that it's like Pearl Harbor again. Just think, we are concentrating on weapons, and weapons are really important. But what have we said for many years? It's not the guns that kills, it's the people that kill. And yet we have politicians now claiming that we should practically go to war against North Korea at this moment. Quite frankly, I think if we wouldn't be in South Korea, which I have advocated for years, South Korea and North Korea probably would be unified and they'd be westernized by now. But this whole idea that we're there and we persist with this confrontation, communism is a failure. That's why the Soviet system collapsed. But when you play these games, just like we did with the communists in Cuba, Castro lasted a lot longer because we put sanctions on Castro and gave him cover. But that is going to come to an end. Eventually, after all these years, sanctions don't work. People are now crying for even more and more sanctions. So it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever for us to pursue these policies of antagonism. You say, well, these people are a bit nuts. Well, if they don't want to talk to us, fine. But if they would talk to us, I wouldn't give them any money. So often when we talk to the North Koreans, we think they're going to do something, we give them money. Why don't we try this third option? Instead of either attacking people or giving them money, just offer out friendship. If they want to trade with us, fine. But communism fails. It will fail. Their system is failing. The Soviet system, we didn't have to attack it. They had thousands and thousands of nuclear weapons, and we didn't have to confront them. And now we're acting hysterically over this whole notion that we have to attack them. Sure, they might be working on a weapon, but just think in the age in which we live. People need to understand and study what fourth-generation warfare is. They need to understand that we were really brought down, and chaos was caused by 19 individual with box blades. That's what we have to think about. But you have to understand fourth-generation warfare. You have to understand why people want to attack us. You have to understand why we do these things and how fruitless they are. We have to realize that our foreign policy has blowback to it. And that is the biggest threat to us. The best thing that we could do is take the advice of the Founding Fathers and say, look, let's trade with people, let's talk with people, try to be friends with people, and be more tolerant with people, and look to our own problems. When we make our own mistakes, if we have imperfections in protecting human rights and civil liberties here in this country, let's take care of it before we preach and lecture to everybody else and expect them to respond to us. If we do that, I think we could come up with a much better chance of having peace in this world and certainly a lot more prosperity. We don't need to be spending these hundreds of billions of dollars on international warfareism. And some people expected our new administration actually cut back. They're increasing this military budget. And if you would have just listened to the comments from our administration today, they were more provocative than anything I've heard in weeks, if not months, about what we must do about this. We ought to just sit back and take a breath and realize that North Korea is not a threat to the United States of America.